Shove it, man!
Alright, Brick to the Head Brigade, it's the Hawk here with a new episode of Ring of the Hawk Season 2. I said I'd take a little break from that series as I was having a really hard time with copyright. Anyway, we're back. We still seem to be in search for our first day on Ring of the Hawk Season 2. And from the comments I get, today's competitor has an excellent chance of being that guy. And of course,
if you know a wrestler who can do the J-O-B to the H-J-W-K any night, any day, ha ha, shove their name in the comment section, Jack.
Okay, Rick Martel in 1998, the rebirth of a career or smack with a plate. Rick Martel's main career is a bit before my time, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it, but he was a 3-time WWF Tag Team Champion. He was big in the 80s tag scene. He then moved on to be the model Rick Martel, which lasted until the mid-90s. At this point, his career had fizzed out a bit, so he left the WWF. He was set to return in 1997 to team with Don Callis, but he got a better offer from WCW, and that brings us to today's video. A 42-year-old Rick Martel returns to the wrestling spotlight. Match 1, Nitro. Brad Armstrong versus Rick Martel is announced as the former WWF Tag Team Champion. He looks like $1 million. Martel starts out with a nice reversal jumping over Armstrong's head, and then he almost wins with a roll-up. Armstrong gets the better of the next exchange with a headlock takeover. He also scores a knockdown. The crowd are already chanting boring, not a good start. Martel hits a backdrop suplex and follows up with a middle rope clothesline. Now Martel hits a nice gut wrench suplex. The crowd are awake now. No cover is made and he hits a dropkick next. Armstrong then fakes out a bit, which enables him to get his advantage, and he hits his own backdrop suplex. Brad Armstrong does a choke in front of the referee. Moments later, he charges at Martel, who hits him with a spinebuster. Martel puts on a Boston Crab, which he calls the Quebec Crab, and he gets the tap-out win. A fairly dominant win, but this match was a complete afterthought. His debut was not a big deal at all, but that's not his fault. I'll give him a middle-of-the-road C to start out. Match 2, Thunder, Louis Spicoli versus Rick Martel. Rick starts out wrenching on Louis' arm. He sends him flying and jumps over him. Rick sends him out the ring with a clothesline. Couple of drop kicks now from Martel as Spicoli chills on the outside again. Martel goes back out to fetch him and he has a nice smile for his fans. Louis starts smacking him in the ring, but it doesn't have much effect. Martel gets a 2 count on a running crossbody. Louis now tries to dive but gets a punch to the gut. Martel's trying his hardest to get the crowd going and he hits a back body drop. He tries a drop kick but Louis holds the ropes. Spicoli tries to steal his spinebuster finisher but Martel isn't having it. He wriggles out of it and hits his own spinebuster and then he applies the crab for the win. It was a nothing match, it can't be anything more than a D. Match 3, Nitro, Eddie Guerrero versus Rick Martel. He looks so happy as he comes to the ring. Eddie jumps in before the bell's even gone, so he's no longer happy. Eddie tries to beat him up in the corner, but Martel turns it around with fury. Martel quickly springs off the middle ropes with a lariat. He hits a gorilla press slam to Eddie Guerrero, impressive start to this one. Eddie keeps charging at Martel, who arm drags him twice. Eddie dumps in his nappy of anger. Guerrero now uses some underhand tactics to hit a low dropkick. Eddie goes to work on Martel's knee and he does a reverse knee lock. The crowd are all over Guerrero like a bad shirt. Eddie dives over the ropes to continue his knee assault. Martel's struggling, so Eddie gives him a backdrop. Martel then tries a comeback, but he gets a dropkick to the face. Eddie looks to do some real damage now, but he misses a springboard which allows Martel to hit the spinebuster. Eddie taps out to the Quebec Crab. Well, that win came completely against the run of play though. The crowd enjoyed that outcome. I'll give it a C, it was too short to be anything more. It seems to be going well for Martel, but then he gets smashed through a glass door by Perry Saturn. This is the start of Martel's only feud in WCW, as Saturn was going for the TV title that belonged to Booker T. Match 4, Thunder, Perry Saturn versus Rick Martel, who charges to the ring. Martel starts with a back body drop and a couple of clotheslines. He hits another clothesline to knock Saturn out the ring. He throws Saturn into the steps, taking out the cameraman. Saturn takes a funny back dive as he comes back into the ring. Mick Martel has apparently snapped. He gets surrounded by flock guys, which distracts him and it allows Saturn to drop him on the ropes, nutsack first. Martel fights back with a crossbody. It doesn't hurt Saturn, who throws him with a suplex for a 2 count. Martel seems to be in a blind rage as he crashes into the corner pole. Saturn puts on an armbar, but Martel fights out of it. Saturn then goes back to the armbar. Martel again goes to try and power out of it and he manages to apply a sort of an STO. As soon as they get back up, Saturn hits a net breaker. Then we get a double down from a clothesline. Martel seems to be back in this now as he hits the middle rope lariat. Saturn quickly stops his run by sweeping him out and puts him in a nice pinning predicament. Martel kicks out, but then he almost gets rolled up 2 more times. Saturn tries a sunset flip dive, but Martel rolls through and he gets the Quebec Crab on. Kidman appears on the top rope as the referee rings the bell. Martel dodges and Kidman smashes into his own guy. Not gonna lie, Saturn completely overshadowed him here. When Ken Shamrock used to snap, there was electricity in the air. When Martel snaps, not that much happens. I'm not sure how much of Martel's temper is meant to be his gimmick, but the commentaries seem to mention it quite a lot. This one's a D. Match 5, sold out 1998, TV title. The challenger, Rick Martel versus the champion, Booker T. I expect Martel's going to get booed in this one going up against Booker's popularity. They talk some trash before the match, but it looks like they have mutual respect. Booker scores the first big knockdown. Then the pace suddenly speeds up and Martel almost rolls Booker T up. Martel fights off a hammerlock and he tries to roll him up again, like before, but Book learns from his mistake. He smacks Martel down. Booker's definitely on top, he hits a suplex. Martel then manages to dodge Booker's elbow drop, but Booker spinneroonies his way back to his feet and he hits a Harlem sidekick for a 2. Martel then finally lands a knee in the corner and he hits a clothesline from the middle rope. Back and forth match now because Booker kicks him down again. Martel's struggling, he charges time and time again but he just can't catch the quicker Booker. Martel tries a leapfrog but he gets a headbutt from Booker in the gut instead. Booker starts checking if he's okay, but Martel's playing possum. Martel has now snapped and he smacks Booker over and over again and whips him hard into the corner. Nice gut-wrench suplex from Martel now for a 2 count. Booker tries a comeback, but Martel hits him with a spinebuster. Unfortunately, he doesn't go for the crab and instead he tries a pin, which is just a 2. Out of nowhere, Booker almost rolls him up in the corner, but Martel shuts him down again. Rick Martel is wrestling a real old school match here. He puts on the abdominal stretch, but Booker uses a hip toss to get him off. Booker fires back now, but he can't hit his dropkick. Martel tries the crab and he gets it on, but Booker's too near the ropes. Rick Martel starts celebrating, thinking he's won the match. What an idiot. Booker uses that as an opening to hit the scissors kick. He follows that with a big side slam. He climbs to the top and sort of hits the Harlem Hangover. I don't know, it didn't look great. Martel is a bad loser after the match and he snatches the TV title. Then he gives it back to Booker T and raises his hand. Booker shows him mutual respect and it ends. So I guess it's almost a heel turn. Wait, no, Saturn is here. He suplexes Martel. Booker tries to save him, but he's too late. A middle of the road kind of match. I'll give it a low B. Match 6, Nitro. Perry Saturn with Lodi versus Rick Martel. This is not actually a scheduled match. Saturn jumps in with aggression. Martel turns it around with a back body drop and a drop kick. Wait, what? He does a flying head scissors takedown. Okay, didn't know that was in his arsenal. Saturn bails because he's losing, but Martel shoves him into the steps. Perry Saturn manages to turn it around when Martel tries another flying head scissors and Saturn drops him on the ropes. Saturn takes him down with a crossbody and he goes up high. He hits a missile dropkick for a 2 count. Perry Saturn then slams him and he goes high again, but he can't land his attack. Martel's back in this one now and he hits the spinebuster. He wants the Corvette crab, but Kidman takes the referee and Raven's flock are all interfering. Saturn puts on the rings of Saturn and he wins it. Okay, I think him and Saturn work well together. It was more enjoyable with a clear heel and a clear face. I'll give it a C, it was too short to be anything more than that. Match 7, Nitro, TV title match, later that same night. So Rick Martel does double duty on this episode of Nitro. He's challenging for Booker T's title again. Booker checks Martel is okay to have this match as he might be hurt. Martel's okay with it and he jumps Booker straight away. The crowd are now chanting Martel sucks. So he wrestled a face match earlier on and a heel match in the same hour. Booker backdrops him and kicks him in the head. Booker joins in with the Martel sucks chant. Rick buys some time on the outside. Rick Martel's wrestling like a real nutcase. He looks like he wants to kill Booker. Unfortunately, Booker hits his own spine bust and it looks much better than Martel's. So his special move is now dead. They brawl around the outside of the ring and then they come back to the ring where Booker gets a 2 on a reverse elbow. Booker drags his arm out now and kicks him for another 2. Rick Martel continues losing as he drives himself into the corner pole and gets Booker T knee dropped. He's finally stopped with a Rick Martel stun gun across the ropes. Martel throws Booker out to the mats and sends him into the safety rail. Rick Martel's wrestling a good heel match here, it has to be said. In the ring, Booker misses the dropkick. Martel goes for the crab and he gets it on, but it's too near the ropes again. Once again, Rick Martel celebrates like a complete fool. He doesn't get as distracted this time though. Moments later, Booker hits a Harlem sidekick, but Rick's still fighting back. Then there's a ref bump as Booker picks up Martel. Once again, Booker misses his elbow, but he spinneroonies up. Saturn's here again and he smacks Martel. Booker also crashes into Saturn on the apron with a kick. Booker gets his leg caught up on the top rope and he hurts it. Martel once again puts on a Quebec crab straight away and this time Booker T taps out. New television champion. It feels like they're building towards a triple threat between these 3 guys. A win over Booker T might not seem like that much of a big deal, but he was a massive deal in the upper mid card at this time. Martel winning the title on this run was unexpected. It doesn't happen much on Ring of the Hawk. I enjoyed this match even if his sort of heel turn wasn't explained well. I think it's the commentary's fault. If they sold it like he snapped because he kept getting screwed by Saturn, that would make sense. But they never said that. They left me to connect the dots, and as established, I'm an idiot, and I'm also a stupid bird with a Hulk Hogan face smashed on top of it. I think he wrestled his best match by far here, and it was a fun match. Well, he won a belt, and that doesn't happen much, as I said, so I have to give him a rare ring of the Hawk A. There's no need to spray. Match 8, Super Brawl 1998, TV title match. Well, I was wrong about the triple threat. The winner of this match will go straight onto a match with Saturn. Not sure why it's that way round, surely the champion would be last. So the challenger is now Booker T, and he takes on our champion Rick Martel. Martel wants to start with a handshake, but Booker slaps it away. Booker starts with some punches and a backdrop. The Bookman whacks him out of the ring. The crowd are all over Martel. No doubt he's meant to be the fan favourite here. Martel comes back into the ring but he gets smacked down again. Rick Martel aggressively fights back, but moments later he gets a spinning back kick. Booker hits a knee drop now for a 2 count. Rick Martel tries roll-ups on the ropes but it doesn't work and Booker kicks him again. At this point, they've started calling the match on the fly. That throw on the ropes caused torn ligaments, and now they've decided to call the rest of the match on the fly because he doesn't. Booker hits a side slam and a big kick. It's still not over though as Booker walks into a power slam. Martel puts on a chin lock now as once again the crowd are all over him. Martel hits his spine buster. He then applies the crab but the Bookman grabs the ropes. Martel springboards right ear from the corner. This is actually what did it for him. So this new finish they worked out broke his leg. It was already injured from hitting the ropes, and then when he jumped off the corner it completely screwed his leg up. Booker comes back at him with a flying forearm. He hits a scissors kick quickly followed by a spine buster. The Bookman tries a crossbody which misses. He tries a dive but he's smashed with a Harlem sidekick and that's a 3. Booker now has to fight Saturn straight away, and after another good match Booker beats him too. What originally confused me about this match is I was thinking, how did Martel know his leg was so screwed that they had to change the entire match? Well, I guess it's just because he knew he couldn't get through the next scheduled match with Saturn, which went for like 14 minutes. He was actually supposed to retain the TV title on this night. Who knows what would have happened if he hadn't jumped from the corner. Anyway, massive props to Rick for wrestling another 6 minutes. It's not as if he was barely moving for that 6 minutes. He was all over the shop. I'm giving Rick Martel's final WCW match an A for toughing it out and still having a pretty good match. Shame it's over now. Well, shove it, man. There's one more match to be seen. What do you mean there's one more match? The narrative on the internet is that this match with Booker ended Rick Martel's career. Well, I'm about to punch you all in the gut and hit you with a brick. Stay tuned. Match 9. Final match. Nitro. Stevie Ray, Booker's brother. God, what did this family have against his opponent, Slick Rick Martel? I'm just kidding, I know it's nothing like that. So this one is 5 months after the Booker T match. He's made a comeback. Martel somehow looks even bigger now. Stevie smacks Martel in the corner whilst Martel shakes and spasms. Here come the aggressive Martel punches now. Martel hits the middle rope clothesline and he puts on a standing armbar. Stevie powers out of it and he throws Martel out the ring. And if you think this is the moment that ended Rick Martel's career because he's grabbing at his knee, you'd be wrong. The match carries on in the ring and Martel gets a 2 on a sunset flip. Martel throws him across the ring and fires at him with a dropkick. Martel now manages an arm drag takedown and he applies an armbar. Ray fights up to a vertical base and he catches his crossbody attempt. Ray hits him with a front slam. Stevie misses his elbow drop and Martel's back in this one. He gets a 2 count on a back elbow. Stevie Ray channels his inner Booker T now with a stiff kick. Martel slips out of his next move to hit a back suplex. Rick Martel finally goes to put on the Boston Crab, but suddenly, Bret Hart appears and smacks him in the head with a chair. How the fuck did that ref not see or hear that one? Stevie Ray hits his slapjack finisher for the 3. And this right here is the move that ended his career. Martel was so worried about going up for this move because he didn't want to land on his previously injured leg, which meant he took the move too much on his head. This injured 2 vertebrae in his neck. Probably the weakest match of his run too. It's a D. So with yet another injury, Martel decided to hang up his boots. This is kind of a sad run. He looked like he was really ready for a career rebirth, and he looked like a good fit in the WCW upper mid-card. All we've got to do now is shove Rick Martel a final grade for Ring of the Hawk. I honestly think a B is the right call to make here. As good as it wasn't incredible. I did respect everything he did, but it just wasn't incredible. Anyway, little insider tip, the first day on Ring of the Hawk Season 2 is coming real soon. And if you don't agree with that, I'll beat your ass for spoon.